99.9% of black people have never committed a murder. End forward. Your friend says racism ended a long time ago. Instead of terminating the friendship, you challenge your friend to a game of debate about black people. You say, if racism is over, why do black people make up 40% of the prison population? Why are black drivers 30% more likely to be pulled over? Why are black people 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police? And they will crush you with one simple response. Because black people commit more crimes. You will tell them to prove it, and they're more than happy to provide you with the source of all sources, FBI Uniform Crime Reporting Statistics. This is their go-to move anytime they see someone online addressing the mistreatment black people face at the hands of law enforcement. They link you to FBI data tables and eventually say one of the most common racist talking points spoken by racists who don't believe in racism. Black people make up 13% of the population, yet commit over half the crime. Hi, I'm Anthony McPherson, and you should subscribe to it because today, this racist talking point dies. Not only are we going to empirically prove that it's wrong, but we'll prove that even if you waved a magic wand and somehow made it that this talking point were correct, its results do not matter. It's like a mouse next to an elephant. But mice, for some reason, scare elephants, and the GOP's logo is an elephant. Like, why conservatives are so terrified of tiny issues like this, I don't know. I know, but whatever. Let's just be clear that today I'm only discussing the talking point black people make up 13% of the population but commit over half the crime. I will unfortunately not be exploring more interesting topics like whether or not some crime is good, such as in the case of Harriet Tubman. I believe that that is a much more interesting topic, but because there are racists and centrists, we have to talk about basic shit that isn't as fun. But, you know, I progress. We're just going to assume that all laws are just because America has no experience with unjust laws, obviously. And we will say that all criminals, all of them, are bad, including civil rights activists such as Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. We're also not going to question the validity of the FBI as a source in this video. So I will not mention that the then director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, described MLK and the civil rights movement as the greatest threat to our nation. No. We will assume that the FBI collects all data in an unbiased manner from top to bottom. Now, for the record, I personally believe that it is ridiculous to think that racism and crime aren't connected, because fighting racism was literally a crime in and of itself, and all that data on criminalized black activists affected a generation of data that the following generation of police based their operations on. But I progress. Because the NPC who regurgitates this Shapiro talking point isn't imagining activists when they talk about FBI statistics. They're obviously imagining 50 Cent when they say it, and they probably don't know that that wasn't a picture of 50 Cent. Also, we're going to pretend that the FBI adjusts its tables once they realize their estimations are incongruous with the actual amount of reported crimes. But just in case you don't want to live in a fantasy land, the Wall Street Journal wrote an interesting piece on their ancient system for generating estimates, link in the description. But me, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt at every opportunity I can, which will make this even funnier in the end. Left-leaning folk in the comments will be tempted to justify black crime by bringing up privilege, over-policing in black neighborhoods, or the fact that after the Civil War, the Southern economy would have collapsed without black bodies working for free, and thus the prison industrial complex was born. Well, that's not what this video does. What we will do is whenever someone says black people commit half the crime and tries to prove it with FBI data statistics, we will link them to this video because it proves them wrong. Let the wrong people make their justifications, not you, because that's weird. McPherson, don't waste your precious time arguing with these people. Anyone who says this talking point has already proven that they are racist because they are trying to prove that black people are more prone to criminal behavior because they are black. So I'm gonna say that there's 3 stages of racism because sure, why not? 1, baby racism, where you naively think race no longer matters. 2, closeted racism. And 3, open racism. If you call a caterpie racist a racist, they will retreat to their cocoon and eventually morph into a full-blown piece of shit. Am I saying you should coddle them? No. I'm saying link them to this video because I will coddle them on your behalf. I will assume that they are fact-based individuals who, for some indiscernible reason, lacked the motivation to thoroughly interpret these tables. I'm gonna turn the tables on them. I will debunk their claim by speaking a language they understand. All facts, no empathy. Last thing before we get started, I'll be using the most up-to-date FBI data tables at the time, links in the description if you want to follow along or double check my work. I understand those who don't take FBI tables seriously because they can never reflect the current year, but consider this, I'm using 2018 data tables, and in 2018, people were still saying this racist talking point. Oh, I just wanted to make you wait for it. Okay, cool. Ready to get started? Let's do it. Black people make up 13% of the population but commit over half the crime. What's your source?
FBI data tables. You can't argue with it because it's an irrefutable fact.
To argue against FBI data tables is to argue against objectivity itself. According to Table 43A, black people are arrested for 27.4%. Like a game of telephone, this talking point got more hyperbolic with every retelling. Those driven by fear have a long history of exaggerating the threat black people are to society.
But they do commit over half the violent crime.
Black people make up 13% of the population, but commit over half the violent crime. The data table says black people are arrested for 37.4% of violent crime, which means, according to my calculations, well, that's less than half.
Well, they do commit half of the murder.
Black people make up 13% of the population but commit over half the murders. How many of the unsolved murders do black people commit?
About half of them.
If it's unsolved, how do you know who the murderer is? About a third of murders go unsolved. Data Table 3 shows that 29.5% of the murders are done by an offender of an unknown race, and black people make up 38% of murder offenders, which is less than half.
Well, they only make up 13% of the population, so anything over 13% is still disproportionate.
Black people make up 13% of the population yet commit over a third of murders. The next issue is how the data tables interpret who is and isn't black. Zoe Saldana is a black woman, and she claims her blackness, as she should, but her father was Dominican and her mother is Puerto Rican, so her ethnicity would be Hispanic or Latino. FBI Data Table 3 is broken down into 3 categories: sex, race, and ethnicity. If a Hispanic woman were to commit a murder, her sex would be listed as female, her ethnicity would be listed as Hispanic or Latino, but what would you list for her race? You might assume it would go under the other category. Notice in 2018 that 312 murder offenders had their race listed as other, but the table says here at the bottom that other includes American Indian or Alaska Native. I can't believe we still refer to people not from India as Indians, but Columbus was a stable genius, I guess. Asian and Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. So if other doesn't include Hispanic or Latino people, I ask again, what would the agency list for a race if a Hispanic woman commits a crime? There are only 2 possibilities, the white column and the black column. There are no other columns on the table. That's not me saying that, that's the structure of the table. But don't worry, I will estimate in favor of white murderers, giving them as much benefit of the doubt as possible. 53% of Hispanic and Latino Americans identify as white Hispanic. So 53% of the 1,576 Hispanic or Latino murder offenders is 836 rounded up. Of the 4,884 white offenders, an estimated 836 were actually Hispanic whites. That leaves 740 brown people with nowhere to go but under the black or African American column. Keep in mind, not all agencies collect ethnicity data, so many Latinos are listed as simply black or simply white. Black and brown people make up 13% of the population, yet commit not so fast, McPherson. Oh no, not this. You mean not yourself? What do you want, super woke me? You to be your best self. So you're saying you want me to be you? I want you to try. Whatever, just tell me what I did wrong so I can get back to making my video, please. Afro-Latinx people are black, so there's no need to make this distinction. Oh, okay. So you are just too woke to be useful right now. Do not use fiction to dispel alternative facts. Wait, if you're supposed to be the best version of me, why do you sound like an old white Jedi master? The flaw resides in your subconscious. Oh, The decolonization of the self is an important invisible journey. The never-ending struggle between darkness and... I completely understand what you're saying, but you have to understand that the people who are watching this video, they think when we say 13% of the population, that 13 is just the African Americans, and they probably think an additional like 4% is the Mexicans. So like while you are correct, you have to understand that we are talking about people who think that Native Americans are Indians. Like, you don't teach astrophysics to grade schoolers. Very well, very well. But if you continue to fashion your tongue to the contours of the mind of the racially ignorant, you shall deny the world the poetry that is the perfect truth. Cool. So let's move on. Black and brown people make 13% of the population, yet commit a third of the murders. If you are arrested for a crime, does that mean that you committed the crime? I'll do you one better. Do trials exist? I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora? FBI data tables are based off of arrests, not court findings. On the Uniform Crime Reporting website, the fine print says, and I quote, "The classification of this offense is based solely on police investigation over here, as opposed to determination of a court, medical examiner, coroner, jury, or any other judicial body." That's how the FBI sounds. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that 1 year, everyone tried in criminal court is found innocent. Everyone. Great. But those innocent people were still arrested, and those arrests go in the FBI data table with which you use to support your claim that black people commit more crimes, over half. It's innocent until proven guilty, not innocent until arrested. Do you understand the difference? Yeah. Arrests do not equal convictions. This arrest-based data does not prove anyone committed more crime or less crime. If you want me to make a video explaining the difference between arrests and convictions, let me know in the comments and I'll... I'm good. Sorry about that, little buddy. I'm just gonna... Black and brown people make 13% of the population, yet are arrested for a third of the murders. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but hey, let me do you every favor possible. Let's pretend that these tables are, in fact, irrefutable evidence that black people commit more crime. So we'll pretend that we don't see the big yellow arrests there. Nope, these are all convictions. But I won't stop there. I'll ignore the fact that 97% of these convictions result from guilty pleas, not trials, because the arrested person doesn't want to risk a harsher sentence. I'll ignore that the United States Sentencing Commission found that black men receive harsher sentences than white men for the same crime.
That's because black people are repeat offenders.
Except the United States Sentencing Commission found that the violence in criminal history does not account for the difference in sentencing. Do your Googles. I'm also going to ignore that half of the 2,000 people exonerated of violent crimes since I was born have been African American. And let's pretend that police departments all operate in a non-racist manner. F it. Black people make up 13% of the population but commit half the crime. It's time for us to take some accountability. No more excuses. Let's stop blaming the past for our mistakes. The fact is, we are simply more criminal, and until we change how we raise our families, until we change our values and improve our primitive, violent culture, the truth is, we will commit more crimes and always end up in jail. It's time for us to improve. As men, men make up less than half the population, yet definitely actually commit 73% of crime, 79.5% of violent crime, 87.5% of murder, 85.4% of robbery, 97.2% of rape, 92.5% of sexual offenses outside of rape. I could go on.
Men only commit all of that crime because of our testosterone. It's our desire to succeed that pushes our ambition beyond the law at times.
Wait. So men are the more hormonal of the sexes. That's what you're telling me. Are men not in control of their own actions? Are we not strong enough to overcome our primitive, animal, criminal, thuggish impulses? No. No f***ing excuses. Make better decisions. We men lead in every criminal category except for prostitution.
Not all men.
Forward. 99.9% of black people have never committed a murder. End forward. It's our violent culture. All those brutal action movies, violent video games that serve the deepest, most twisted fantasies of the male mind. All those violent rappers, Eminem, Machine Gun Kelly. We have to show our sons a better way to be a man, or the cycle will never improve. You can't argue against FBI data tables because they're objectively true. I'm not interested in any excuses or justifications. I'm interested in us as men becoming less violent and criminal. Stop playing the victim to your testosterone. Stop playing the man card.
Bonus round, yeah. Well, the FBI data tables might only tell of arrests, but I have another source that will surely prove that the blacks are black. Crime Data Explorer.
Crime Data Explorer cites a source in their appendix, and that source is FBI data tables, so fail.
Well, the Bureau of Justice Statistics
also cites FBI uniform crime reporting data tables. They all do. Just give it up. It's over, bro. Speaking of Bureau of Justice Statistics, they found that if you only measure people below the poverty line, black people per capita have rates of violence very similar to white people, with poor whites at 46.6 per 1,000 poor white people, and poor blacks at 43.4 per 1,000 poor black people. I highly encourage you to use your intellectual, fact-based mind to come up with some solutions that will cure society of poverty. Do that, and you will see crime plummet for all races. Blacks, whites, Latinos, Indians, people from India, all of them. The Aristotle once said,
poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. Aristotle, aka me.
The issue is a large percentage of black people are born into poverty, but that is a video for another time. Support the Patreon so I can keep making these videos because it's very hard to do. In conclusion, 99.99% of black people have never committed a murder. In 2018, there were 6,318 black people arrested for murder. Even if we assume all of those arrested people are empirically guilty, there are conservatively 42 million black and brown people in America. That means 0.01% of the black and brown population are murderers, and that's if we assume all 6,000 are guilty. Perspective, in 2018, 40,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes. When you say 13% of the population commits half the murder, you're ascribing the behavior of 0.01% of us to 100% of us. Now, most rappers will tell you that most of these ain't real, i.e. not about that life. Most of us are just normal people, and lots of us like rap music just as much as white people do. One of my favorite Drake lines is, "My automatic rounds catch them while they sleeping. Now I'm the last motherfucker breathing, yet I have touched 0 guns in my lifetime. I'm not a Republican or a gangster, so no guns so far. Maybe one day, I'll take you there. But the only time that I am the gangster in the rap songs is when I am profiled. When I'm following the store, when Margaret clutches her purse, or when the media calls me a thug for peacefully protesting, or when people think I am part of the 0.01% of black people that these FBI data tables apply to. Now, no, we do not think that you are racist because you're white. Plenty of white people don't spit these talking points, and we wish very, very much so that you were one of these people. But the fact that I've never committed a violent crime doesn't matter. The fact that FBI data tables are based off of arrests, not court findings, doesn't matter. The fact that not every department collects ethnicity data or even sends data at all doesn't matter. You will still feel that black people are more criminal. And feelings do not care about your facts. Now look, I believe feelings are important. They lead to a more empathetic and healthy lifestyle, but these feelings of fear and anger are a very oversensitive reaction. There were 17,000 murder offenders out of the entire American population of 327 million. That means 0.005% of Americans are murderers. Listen, you only have one life to live. Why spend it on arguing over who makes up more of this tiny crumb of the American population? Like, why should an elephant cower and shake in fear before the presence of a mouse? Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video informative. And if you were racist before, I hope you're magically not racist now. A special thank you to my empirically perfect girlfriend for helping me behind the scenes, because there are a lot of tasks on here. And no man is an island, and I could not do any of this without you, my wonderful patrons. Thank you for making it possible for me to buy the equipment and dedicate time for this content. All right, be good. I'll see you next time.